Hey guys, welcome back to video number 7, and you'll be glad to know again we are not talking about verbs, but we are focusing a little bit more on the letter that we touched on in our last video. So what we're going to be looking at today are the important things to know about your letter. How is it marked and how much is it worth? So how is it marked in the Junior Cert? Number 1, layout. Remember that 6-station layout that we had in the last video in those lovely notes that you had? That's worth 4 marks. Place, date, your good opening sentence and a good closing sentence. 4 marks doesn't sound like a lot, but if you have those in the bag and they're guaranteed, why not get them? Then, each point is worth 6 marks. So a total of 6 by 6 then is going to be 36 marks. So obviously then your letter is now worth 40 marks. The examiner will be told on the marking scheme to look out for 1, good range of vocabulary. Yes, you can use basic vocab. Can you use it well? Do you know how to use it with little phrases? Does it make sense? Good use of phrases, like I just said, and check your notes. Number 3, correct use of tenses. You know all of those arguments you have in class with your teacher about, Miss, why do we have to do verbs today? Why do we need to know this tense? Why do we need to know this verb? This is why. It's literally written on the marking scheme to look out for correct use of tenses. Now, this might seem a little bit weird, but your overall ability to communicate in Spanish. So this idea of, could somebody who just speaks Spanish understand your letter? Is your letter written in actual Spanish, or is it written in a direct translation from English into Spanish, which sometimes doesn't really work? This whole idea of communicating, does it sound good? Does it read well? Does it have a good structure? All things that are worth marks. So, this might scare you a little bit, and it's something that maybe a lot of teachers don't want to tell you, but your letter is 40 out of a total of 320 marks, which means that it's worth 12.5% of your whole Junior Cert, which is a fairly decent chunk, okay? So 12.5%, you want to do well in this. So if we look at the marking scheme from 2013, and I know I've told you before that all of the sound files and the exam papers are on examinations.ie. The marking schemes are also on there. So it's a good idea to maybe try and familiarise yourself with the marking scheme and be aware of what the examiner is going to be looking out for when he or she are correcting your paper. Section C, we're talking about our letter. So, like I said, 40 marks, 12.5%, 6 by 6 for your points, and then 4 for your layout is a total of 40 marks. So it said here that points 1, 3 and 6 do not require development. Okay, this doesn't stand to every single marking scheme, but there are going to be at least 2 or 3 points in every letter that you can get away with just using a sentence. Tell her what time you're going to arrive at the train station. Tell her what plane you're getting. You do not need to expand on those at all. You just need to stick to the point and make sure that your grammar is good, and you're going to get your full marks. Then it said candidates, so you guys, are expected to develop points 2, 4 and 5. For 6 marks, candidates should expand content with a good range of vocab, idiomatic phrases and correct use of tenses and verbs. So maybe things in your letter might say, tell her 2 things that you did on holidays. Tell her 3 things you want to do in Spain. And this is your chance to shine. This is when you're going to say, look, I remember that phrase from my notes from Salta, or that's the phrase that my teacher told me to use in my letter. That's when you're going to get your great marks. An idiomatic phrase is like a saying. When I'm saying things like you can't always translate from English into Spanish, if I told a Spanish person in Spanish that it's raining cats and dogs, they'd look at me like I had 10 heads. Okay? An idiomatic phrase is something that a Spaniard would say to be funny or to exaggerate or to add drama to something. Okay, so it said each point may be awarded up to a maximum of 6 marks. Ignore minor inaccuracies. So don't panic too much about little mistakes here and there, because they're actually told to ignore them. That's fine. Is your communication clear and accurate? Did you develop your point? Is your vocab really broad? Do you use it well? Are your verbs and tenses correct? That's going to get you 5 or 6 marks. Anything slightly under that is going to get you anywhere between 1 and 4 marks. So is it kind of easy to understand? Is the overall gist of the letter okay? Is your communication skill quite basic? Are your verbs basic? Are there lots of mistakes? These are the things that are going to cost you marks. So guys, please just try and familiarise yourself with both good things to learn for your letter and also how it's marked. And in my opinion, that's the best way to optimize all of your marks for your letters. Now, go study your notes and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.